Welcome to the latest episode of Car-Pinionated. We took a little break there for a while, had some other projects we were working on, but we're back and happy to be back. I'm Doug Stewart, Senior Digital Content Producer at Fox 61, and this is my co-host, Glenn Packman. And we're joined by guests, Glenn. We have guests.
We have guests.
Yay! So first, Eddie Cotto is a Tesla. This is a Tesla owner, and he's going to talk. He's going to talk about Teslas. And Matt O'Connell is also a Tesla owner, and he's going to talk about his Tesla experience. So first off, I'll just Matt, talk to me about how you arrived at buying a Tesla. What was your thought process in getting there?
I actually have been following Tesla for a while. I'm actually an investor in Tesla, so I've been following them in the news. I knew a lot about the car. I have a very technical background, so I'm a big tech guy. So I really like the idea of driving kind of an iPad on wheels. This was the future. I started looking at it in 2018. There was a brief time in February of 2021 for about 2 weeks where Tesla came out with their standard range Model Y. So it was at a significantly discounted price. It has a range of approximately 230 miles or so, which is lower than most of the Tesla Model Ys out there, and especially the ones at the time. So this model lasted for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then Elon Musk decided that the range just wasn't up to the standards of typical Tesla metrics and where they should be. So he actually pulled it, for a few years. So I got in there in that 3-week window, and actually, that's kind of what really triggered me. So I had been looking at it for a while, and then when that opportunity came up, it was just too good to pass up. So I jumped on it at that time, and that was just about 2.5 years ago now.
Eddie, talk to us about your thought process and how you got to the point where you bought a Tesla.
So I had been in a rocky relationship with my previous vehicle, which was a 2019 Honda Accord. It was a hybrid model, and it was fully loaded. But it turns out that it was a lemon, and the head gasket blew at the time. So instead of trying to continue with a blown head gasket and trying to fix that and having the manufacturer fix that, because I had done everything, it was one of my first new cars. Instead of having to deal with that, I kind of decided to let it be and go with a new car. I had done some research and trying to jump to greener, quote, greener pastures, and going full electric. I researched the Tesla, and I found it to be, as far as the community and also the network that they had, I thought it to be the most expansive and best option for me at the time.
Talk to the buying experience is different. I mean, this is not go down to Automotive Row and make the best deal with Murray, the sales guy with the cheap suit, right? Not to denigrate salespeople. We've never done denigrating salespeople, have we, Glenn?
Me personally, yeah, many times, but I don't know. Yeah, I can't speak for you. Yeah. My experience with salespeople, so we'll leave it at that.
So what was that process like? I mean, specifically, you order it online, right? Does both in Florida at the time, does Florida allow direct sales?
Yes. Yes, they do. And my experience was, it was very much like buying an Apple iPhone. You order it online. My car, I was living about 45 miles north of Miami at the time. The location where I was picking it up, was pretty close to me, but it was coming from Miami. So they just called me up. I mean, I ordered it. 5 days later, I received an email saying, "Hey, we have a car for you in Miami. You can pick it up on Saturday." So it was that simple, and I just went there, picked it up. They had it all ready to go. Again, no haggling. The price was all set. Did everything online, and I was literally in and out of the whole, if you can call it a dealership. I was out of the Tesla delivery center in and out in about 45 minutes.
And Eddie, talk to us about your experience. Yours, I think, took a little longer.
Oh, just a little bit longer. So I had initially ordered mine in, I believe, July of 2021. I had picked out all the options, special ordered, special color, white interior, basically options that they give you. However, I ended up waiting approximately until March of 2022. So it wasn't the 5 days that Matt had experienced. It was just kind of waiting it out and having the date pushed back on me several times, because originally I was supposed to receive the vehicle, I believe September, and it kept on getting pushed back until finally it arrived in March.
Were the delays pandemic related or just Tesla related?
I believe they were Tesla related. They wouldn't disclose any information to me otherwise.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, it was just kind of like, hey, your vehicle's not here, but you can expect it in October. Hey, it's still not here, but you can expect it in November. And it continued until it almost was a running joke at the time. So
Yeah, at that time, and just as somebody who follows Tesla, I can add a little bit of insight here that at that time, Tesla was like all the other car manufacturers out there. There was the chip shortage.
Yeah.
They were having supply issues. So it was somewhat pandemic related, just with all the other supply issues going on at that time. So yeah, Tesla back then, late 2021, early 2022, was having significant supply issues, like all the other car companies were as well.
Yeah. And so talk to me about your driving experience. Do you change how you drive, what you think about? How does that work for you?
I guess I'll go. My experience has been, I don't drive that much. I probably put on 7,000 miles a year. I pretty much stay locally. I've done a few road trips of 130 miles each way, so 130 miles out, 130 miles back. So I have had the opportunity to use the supercharging, but primarily I just charge at home. So my experience has been very easy. I wake up every morning with a full battery. I never have to go to a gas station. As far as driving itself, it's great. If you just look at all the metrics, I have the safest car on the planet. I pretty much, with few exceptions, even though I'm in South Florida, I pretty much have the fastest car on the road. So if it's me and anybody else, we're all lined up at the red light. When that light turns green, I'm out there if I need to be. So that's been nice. But it's a very smooth riding car. So yeah, I really enjoy it. The driving experience to me has been great. You kind of get the much like your smartphone, you get the over-the-air updates. So they're always sending out new things every 6 weeks or so. You know, things change 90% of the time. I'd say it's for the better. You know, occasionally they change something. You know, it's like, where the hell do I adjust this now? You know, they moved it somewhere. But you know, so that I think, you know, makes the Tesla somewhat unique, is that it's constantly changing. You know, a lot of times when you buy a old analog ICE car, the day you drive it off the lot is the best it's ever going to be. With Teslas, it's just the opposite. You know, just like with your smartphone, you know, they're, you know, Apple and Android, they're always coming out with new updates, and you can get new apps and there's new updates. That's how the Tesla is. You know, you're always getting these new updates, and they're always improving things. You know, sometimes the changes are, you know, somewhat significant. Usually they're pretty small. But you know, so that I think is what makes it unique. You know, that and the actual driving experience of safety, all the metrics. You know, it's great handling because you have that real. It's one of the heaviest cars on the road, so you have a very low center of gravity, so you can you know, corner very well. You know, so it really handles like a Porsche. It has, you know, the acceleration of a Ferrari. You know, yet it's kind of a, you know, big SUV that you can, you know, throw a you know, 55-inch television in, and it'll fit fine.
Yeah, you can't, I don't think you can do that in the Ferrari Purosangue way.
You can try.
No.
I'll try, sure.
Not without a lot of spongy cords and things sticking out the window. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There go the aerodynamics. Yeah.
Can I volunteer to try doing that minus the whole TV thing and just do the driving?
Sure.
There we go.
Sure. Yeah. I'd help you, Glenn. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Do shotgun, sure.
So does so, you know, I look at it like, I like to have, I'm an analog guy, okay, and part of my, and I'm gonna own it, like, part of my feeling is like, I like to have a knob that I'm gonna, you know, change the volume and stuff like that, and so my feeling about like giving that over to a screen, you know, I have reservations about that. What's been your experience, Eddie, with having the screen and using the screen?
The screen for me is kind of the focal point of the whole interior. I mean, it does everything for you. But I have had a couple of troubles with the screen. The screen actually has frozen up on me a couple of times. But it's easily remedied with you know, granted, it hasn't frozen up when I was driving. However, you know, when I was parked, it's a quick, you know, quick reset of maybe about 30 seconds, and everything is back to how it was, you know. I do enjoy having that, um, uh, the ability to kind of customize where you may want things. So with the Tesla, it does have a backup screen, backup camera, excuse me, backup camera screen, where you can put it to where you would like it on the screen, so that it's very easily, with a glance, you can look into either the top left corner or the bottom left corner, or wherever you want it on the screen. It's very nice to be able to do that, to put it to where your line of vision is, and kind of customize it to your liking.
So you brought up having the screen freeze. One of the things about Teslas that I hear is there are concerns about build quality. And granted, that's anecdotal, but you know, what are your thoughts on that?
I have some.
Okay.
That used to be true. You know, and that's you know, if you go back 4 years ago, you know, with the early Model 3 during that ramp up, that was absolutely true. If you're familiar with Sandy Munro, if you follow any of his work, or Sandy Monroe, he has a big YouTube channel. He was an engineer at Ford for many decades, one of their lead engineers. He now tears cars apart. So he will literally this is what he does for a living, and he advises, he's a consultant to many companies around the globe. So this guy is a car expert. He, I think in 2017, 2018, took a Model 3 apart, right down to the bolts. And absolutely said, yeah, there were a lot of problems. There were a lot of gap issues where the hood would be on crooked, and door panels wouldn't line up, and the windows were in crooked. Tesla kind of worked through all those issues, and now, if you look at Sandy Monroe's reviews on Teslas, he says that the build quality is best in the business. Even better than a lot of the German manufacturers, which are known for their quality, namely Mercedes, Audi, BMW. Yes, that used to be true. Teslas used to have build quality issues, and they really resolved that 2021, 2022. So now their paint was another issue. People used to talk about the paint, so they've really fixed all those issues.
Yeah, and building cars is hard. I mean,
absolutely.
It's like if you're outside the business, it's like, oh yeah, and it doesn't have an engine, so I can just put it together, put the battery, So I think that there's this idea, and you see it with Lucid, you see it with Rivian, and whatever else is out there. That they go through a cycle, that there's a learning curve to this process. Are there other EVs that you'd consider?
Maybe BYD, you can't get them here in the US. There are really two companies on the planet that are building EVs at scale. Tesla's one, BYD is the second. BYD, there again, Sandy Monroe has consulted with these Chinese companies, and he's pulled some BYDs apart. BYD has a reputation of excellent quality, great value, which is why they've really taken over China, and they're moving throughout Asia into Australia. But BYD is another one that I would consider, but they're not sold in the US, nor do I think there are any plans to sell them in the US for at least a few years. But that's the only other one that I would consider.
I actually considered the Mach-E. That was, I believe, my alternate to the Model 3. But I figured Tesla would have and I was correct, in a better community and a better network as far as chargers and you name it. So,
Matt, are you worried at all about having an influx of other car brands using the superchargers?
No. There are so few of them. Tesla is building superchargers out, fairly rapidly. I think they're gonna, they have, thousands now, and the plans are to double the number of chargers in the next 2 years. And these companies that are coming on board, as several have announced. I think Mercedes was the most recent one. That doesn't start until 2024, and even then, they only have access to, I think, about 12,000 chargers, which I believe is about a third. So Tesla's owners will still have exclusive use to about 65% of the network. Other people, they'll open it up, to about 35%. I imagine that's going to change over time. But right now there aren't that many Fords out there. There aren't that many GMs out there. So I don't think it'll be that much of a difference. I know that Eddie has used chargers a lot more than I have. I've never had a problem coming up to one. I've gone across, from South Florida over to Naples a few times. And there's one out in what's called Alligator Alley, which is in the middle of the state. Because I have, the smallest battery of any Tesla, I need to charge a little more frequently. So it's certainly a concern of mine, but I've pulled over and, I've never seen those superchargers more than half utilized. But, Eddie may have had a different experience because he uses them a lot more than I do.
As far as the daily use, I try to charge at home as much as possible. Whenever I need to get a little extra juice, or when I won't make it to a destination, I'll stop over and use one of the Wawa superchargers. I usually use the level 3, if I'm not mistaken, superchargers the most, because those charge your car. Those charge your cars the fastest. For the most part, they're pretty good. Whether or not, the most I've ever waited for a supercharger is probably maybe about 10 minutes at max. But they do fluctuate the price depending on when you go supercharge. So, between the hours of 8 and 8, you'll pay somewhere at a particular supercharger, you'll pay somewhere around 40 cents to supercharge. However, between the hours of 9 to 6 a.m., you'll only pay 13 cents. So it varies as to when the busy times are. They're usually around the morning time, I've found, and usually at night when everybody's going home. But for the most part, I feel like the network is pretty sufficient, as far as having the superchargers readily available. Also, the superchargers have been fairly well kept. I've found, whether or not you have a supercharger that's not working, you can report it, and usually within I'd say about 24 to 48 hours, it's usually fixed. I've found.
And so, Glenn, I'll have a question for you. You have a job where you're on the road all day.
Yes.
Have you, and I believe you have, considered an EV? What would be your stopping point? Or like, what do you have to get beyond to get an EV in your thought process?
For me, the bigger thing was just perfecting the technology, and I'll give Tesla credit for the fact that they've been learning as they've been going, obviously, but we're seeing that they're really getting their act together, and that was like my major concern. I just on a whim, I joined a Facebook group for Polestar 2 owners, and I was overwhelmed at the number of complaints in terms of quality with this car, and the resounding comeback from everybody was like, why didn't you buy a Tesla? And so that would be thing number one. I think an electric for what I do, because I'm short range driving on a daily basis, and I think that would work for me. But we also do quite a bit of long range travel, and I guess that's a question I have for both of you: is if you are going to do a long trip, is there extra planning that has to go into this?
The short answer, yes. And it does. If you're gonna do hundreds and hundreds of miles,
right?
You absolutely will. It's going to take you longer.
Sure.
Because every 250 miles or so, you're going to have to pull over and charge up for a half an hour. Right. As Eddie said, if you're in a level 3, 250, kilowatt charger, which is what most of the new Tesla superchargers are these days. It'll charge your car. Again, Eddie can speak to this more. He's done a lot more than I have. But roughly in about a half hour or so.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So yeah, and obviously if your car is, if you have 20, you're better off doing like a 20% battery, charging it from 20% up to 70%, and then like hitting the road again, rather than taking it from 50% up to 90% and hitting the road, because the lower the battery percentage, the faster it charges. But Tesla helps you with this. If you go on the Tesla screen and you say, I want to take a 500-mile road trip, it will tell you exactly, based on your driving habits. It also takes into account the temperature, the wind direction. It takes in the weather, your average speed. It'll take all this into account, your driving habits, and it will calculate. Pull over at this charger and plan on 25 minutes. Then stop at this charger. 170 miles later, and charge up for 15 or 20 minutes. So it helps you with the planning. But the bottom line is, it's not like a ICE car where you can drive 280 miles, pull in 5 minutes, hit the road again, and you're good for another 280 miles. Right. The EV, it does take a little bit more planning. It is going to be a little bit slower, if you're taking a long trip. Some people can do that. They plan on, I'm going to plan my lunch, or, doing a 400-mile trip. You just might have to stop once, and you kind of plan your trip to, and most of the superchargers tend to be around strip malls and, places where you can grab a bite, so you can do other things. But bottom line is, yes, it does take some planning, and it will be a little slower.
Right. Any final thoughts on your Tesla ownership?
I thoroughly enjoy it. I feel like doing the research, I thought it was the best car for me. The overall buying experience was different in that you didn't have to go to a dealership, like you guys said, and you just kind of ordered your car online. However, the back end of that with the dealership, it was a little bit impersonal, if you will. I have a joke with my friends because they handed me the keys to the Tesla, and I went and I was showing the Tesla off, and they're like, okay, let's come inside and we'll go over some of the things. And I go, oh no, I don't know how to turn it off. So it was kind of a running joke for a bit. But after a while, I had to Google it and figure out you just kind of walk out of the car. And so there's a learning curve, there's definitely a learning curve. But after you get acclimated with it, it's probably one of the best vehicles I've owned.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Best vehicle I've ever owned. I like the idea that I have no oil changes. I'm never going to have to replace a muffler. My radiator is never going to rust through. My transmission is never going to break. It's really kind of a bulletproof car. The battery is essentially, expected to go, 400, 500,000 miles. Not that I'll ever, probably run it up that much. The electric motor, that's just an electric motor about the size of your average microwave. If that wears out after 500,000 miles, a few $1,000s, somebody can stick up another one. You got another, 500,000 miles. So I love the maintenance part of it. I love the idea that I'm getting constant software updates. And this might get a little bit out of the scope of what you're trying to do here, but if I look to the future and where Tesla is going, and what they're building, just them as a company, I really like where they're headed. I think as far as Tesla goes, we've just seen the tip of the iceberg. They're going to be coming out, they have the Cybertruck, which I'm kind of excited to see, which is supposed to be rolling out towards the end of Q3 here.
Yeah, okay,
Sometime
sure.
in September.
Or next year. or the year after
Yeah,
that?
it's supposedly the guys who do all the drone flyovers, over the Austin, Texas plant, and kind of like have the drone hover and peer in the windows, have actually seen the lines of this being built. So, the prognosticators, are pretty much in agreement, that sometime towards the end of Q3, you're going to see that a delivery. The new plant coming up in Mexico, where they're going to be making, what everybody's kind of dubbed the Model 2, which is going to be kind of the real affordable, sub $25,000, kind of junior Model Y type car. And again, as a Tesla investor, I'm happy to see this, and I'm very optimistic about the company and where it's headed. So, I'm very happy with my purchase, and I'm happy to be, a Tesla owner, for a whole host of different reasons.
Well, great. I appreciate you guys spending time with us. So thank you. Good luck to you with your cars, and thanks again. Okay, so for this segment, we're going to talk about the mid-size pickup truck market, which in the past little bit more than a year has almost entirely changed. Within the next 6-7 months, as we sit here in July, we're going to see a new Tundra, a new Ranger. We've already seen a new Colorado. We've seen a new Frontier. Finally, we've seen a new Frontier. Really, the only one that, and people will argue about a Honda Ridgeline is not being replaced. But to my mind, is there any other ones on the market? I can't think of anything.
Me either.
Okay. So right now, you have the Frontier, which has been out the new version has been out for about a year. We're talking a 3.8 liter V8, 310 horsepower, towing maximum of about 6,700 pounds. The Colorado, which is out, has a turbocharged 2.7 liter 4-cylinder engine, 237 to 310 horsepower. Towing will do 770 pounds under the right configuration, and runs from about 29,000 to 39,000. Starting to see prices for the Ranger, which has either a 2.3 liter turbo and a 2.7 liter V6, 7,500 pounds, running from 32,000 up to the Raptor, Ranger Raptor, which is 55,000. And options go beyond that, I'm sure. And then the Tundra, 30,000 to 53,000, 2.4. The no longer have a V6, 2.4 liter 4-cylinder engine, turbocharged, obviously, 278 to 326, and 6,500 tons. So they have more or less the same characteristics. What are you thinking about this classic car, Glenn?
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it looks like all of these manufacturers are actively trying to make something a little bit more dynamic looking than your standard pickup truck. There's a lot of style going into all these. I'm gonna pull the Colorado out specifically because it's got a very chunky, a very aggressive kind of style to it that doesn't just say, well, there's your typical pickup. Now you could probably order the thing dumbed down so that it looks like a pickup, or, for those people who need a pickup to be really utilitarian, I'm kind of hoping they offer the Strippo that they usually do, because that's still a huge chunk of the market. But I think it's just kind of cool that it seems like they're all very aggressively going after the same thing, in that they're like, okay, so we're going to build a lot of pickups. Let's make them look really cool. That doesn't hurt, because, and the other thing that I like, it just in the market overall, not just these new ones, is that we're seeing some very cool, almost variants on pickups. I'm thinking about the Maverick and the Santa Cruz specifically, which are not, anybody who really wants to buy a pickup truck is not, well, you're wait or
no, it's they're in the same market, but they are not the same market.
Right.
Yeah, and they're not the same vehicle. It's
Okay.
you know,
I thought you were
very
telling me to
different.
pause.
No.
Okay. Yeah, somebody who's really looking for the utility of a pickup truck is going to laugh that I even mentioned the Santa Cruz probably, but that's not the market for that truck, So, and I think they're very cool. It's nice that, are they cracking open this market to get even bigger by doing that? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that they identified the fact that, rugged sells, that,
Yeah.
and you can go back to the Nissan hard body of the the late 80s and the early 90s, where that all of a sudden that truck had been very milquetoast, and then all of a sudden it was beefy and very rugged,
Right.
and sold a ton of them. I don't think a vehicle manufacturer is going to lose out by making a pickup truck look more rugged.
Right. Agreed.
You know,
It's also nice that, in recent years, they've also, kind of beefed up the luxury aspect on some of these. I mentioned the Strippo end of the market, but there's also a lot of people out there who want the utility of the truck, but still want to be really comfortable and want it to look like $1 million inside. And they're still driving people around, maybe, So that, smart. It's smart thinking.
And I was just watching, I believe it was the Edmunds review of the Colorado, because I didn't feel like I knew enough about the Colorado. And the interesting thing was that even that base truck, the WT work truck is really what they call it, that level, that trim level, is that they have a decent interior, has a good size touchscreen, has LED in the instrument pod. So, even at that level, they're giving you a lot of amenities.
Right.
And this is something that we're seeing now with a bunch of GM products. And it's if this is a concerted effort, then good on them, because the new Chevy Trax, I mean, it's going off topic here, the new Chevy Trax, the new Buick Envista, really a lot of value. It looks like it could be a Lexus.
Yes. Yep.
And that's not a bad thing to say.
No, not at all.
And I've said this for years, if you make every one of your cars in a range of, from the SE to the LX or whatever it is, if you make them all look good, they are all an advertisement for that car.
Sure.
Even going back to the Mustang, the original Mustang, there wasn't a bad looking Mustang.
Right.
Because they were all the advertising. So if you do that for, your Chevy Colorado, and the work truck looks decent, and then the next one looks even better, and the better, that's going to help you in the marketplace, I think. But we're straying from our pickup truck.
Truck, back to
I'm personally happy to see that after 10 or so years, the Toyota Tundra, the Toyota Tacoma is now being redone on the same platform as the Tundra and the Sequoia, because it needed it. Frankly, it needed it. I mean, those trucks will run forever, but they're not great to drive long distances. Not refined in any sense of the word.
Which is surprising for Toyota. So
good on them that they're redoing it. I wish them the best. Yeah, and they're going to sell every one of them.
Probably.
It's people who like the Tacoma really like the Tacoma.
Right. I'm taking a look at the new Tundra. I'm not the biggest fan, but that doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Tacoma here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Better.
Yeah.
Not all that. Not as much grill. Huge grill on the Tundra.
In your famous words, another 2 or 3 feet on that grill would be really intimidating.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think it's going to be interesting to see the new Ranger, you know, because I think they've really, you know, and I like the old Ranger, but I think this is really another step, another level up for that. And you know, and then you got Frontier plugging along.
Yep.
You know, making finally redoing it after, I don't know, like 11, 12, 13 years or something, you know.
Right. Worth noting that if you do the Google search for 2024 Ford Ranger and you click on the car and driver image that comes up, it actually cycles through several different colors and ways to outfit the truck, and very quickly it goes, you know, from utilitarian to beefy, and it's still all the same truck, which is very clever actually, because you say, wait, I like that one, you know. That's the idea.
And you know, I'm not familiar with the model dynamic on Frontier, but the Colorado will do the same thing. The Toyota will do that. I mean, they're so maxed out with like lights on top and just craziness. Yeah.
Well, you know, pickups are, you know, if you're pickups are all things for all people, really, except for those who don't want to drive a pickup, you know. But there are lots of people in this country who need it to be a utilitarian car. That's good. That's okay. That's fine. You know, as long as in my mind, as long as the build quality is there and the drivability is there, you know. But I will say for all of these, it's nice to see that none of them is sacrificing a lot of ground clearance, and that, you know, because a lot of things that are being marketed as SUVs right now, I mean, come on. Yeah, all-wheel drive does not equate to driving off-road, nor does it equate to having a very rugged vehicle that does a lot, you know, a lot of things that, you know, in terms of that level of utility. So none of these seem to be shying away from that. That's important. I'm thinking farm, I'm thinking snow plowing, I'm thinking, you know, landscaping, all those things. So my only warning to anybody out there who's seriously considering buying a pickup truck is that once you own one, all of the people will come out of the woodwork looking for you to help them move, fill in the blank. I'm serious about that. I mean, it really, when the little pickup truck, which I owned and then you owned, I just, you know, I went on a date with someone who said, "Hey, you drive a pickup? Can you help me buy a big flat screen TV and bring it to my place?" And I was like, on our first date? Okay.
Hey, what you doing this weekend?
Yeah, right. You busy? So, especially if you're watching this and living in Los Angeles, because they will hound you down and they will help, you know, make you help them move. So don't help people move in Los Angeles, because people move in Los Angeles all the time. Anyways, I digress. So it's just, you know, they should come with a little warning sticker on pickup trucks. Warning, people will expect favors from you. So.
All right, for this segment, we're going to talk about cars that have gotten flood damage. Right here in the Northeast, for the past several weeks, we've had a lot of different flooding situations. Vermont hit very bad. Northwest parts of Connecticut have been hit really bad. In the spring, where Eddie lives, there was a lot of flooding in the Fort Lauderdale area. So there are constantly cars inside of these micro locales that have flood damage, and then they're moved to other places. So I wanted to talk about a couple things that you can look for, but we're bringing Eddie back because Eddie deals in this kind of situation. So Eddie, tell us about where you see flood damage cars and why you're aware of this market.
So I currently work at a DMV in South Florida, which turns out to be, I believe, one of or the biggest rebuilt capitals in the US. So I constantly see an influx of rebuilt and damaged and salvaged vehicles. Some are crashed and they're just regular salvage. However, I do receive quite a bit of flood salvages. And in Florida, they do differentiate the two. However, they do not differentiate between saltwater and freshwater salvage vehicles. So they come in by the bunches into the tag agency to process transfers, and also to rebuild these flood damaged and regular salvage vehicles.
How many of these do you see in a given month?
Salvage flood specifically, I'd say maybe about 30% of my rebuilds are salvage flood vehicles. Of course, there was an influx during the whole flooding in South Florida, where we saw probably around 50% of the rebuilds that were coming in were flood damaged.
So a couple things to look at in terms of if you're a consumer and you're looking at a car and you think, okay, what do I want to know to make sure that this isn't a flood vehicle, is you want to check the trunk, and you want to look for signs of water or debris, feel the carpet for moisture, to kind of get in there and get underneath the carpeting of any car. You want to look at the car's engine and see if you see a water line, and kind of test out all the electronics, make sure all the different pieces work. It's not easy to repair these things. Some of them that weren't very damaged very badly, the water didn't come up very high, maybe you can do that, but you gotta be really careful. And especially, it's very secular, and these cars will come on the market, they'll move from state to state. And Eddie, you and I were talking earlier about how all the rules are different state to state, and what can happen in Florida may not happen in Georgia or stuff like that. How does that work?
So basically in Florida, we do differentiate between a regular salvage vehicle and a flood salvage vehicle. If that same vehicle were to head to a different state, where they do not differentiate and just have a wide umbrella as a salvage vehicle, the consumer might not know that the vehicle was in a flood damage, which may be significantly more difficult to repair, especially with electronics, than it is to repair the outside of a vehicle for a regular crash.
What would you advise somebody who's in the market?
I would have to definitely say, do your homework, get a Carfax, research, the car before you buy it. If you can find out, do a history search on a vehicle for a couple of bucks. I know several companies do histories, not only Carfax, but actually dive into what was wrong with the vehicle and why it was deemed salvage. Definitely do your homework before purchasing any salvage or rebuilt vehicle.
Are flood salvage cars normally reported as flood salvage cars to these major outlets? I'm thinking specifically Carfax, because that seems to be like the big one and the most accessible.
They are noted as flood damaged. However, with it being from state to state, if it was not reported as a flood in another state, and it was rebuilt in that state, and then it comes here, we just rebrand it as a rebuilt, and not there's no flood salvage for that vehicle in the state of Florida.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Eddie.
So, Glenn, we have reached the end of another episode of Car-Pinionated. Thank you for joining us. I want to say thanks to Eddie and Matt, who were helping us out earlier in the show. like I said, we took a little break. We're back. We'll keep trying to make this a monthly thing.
Sure.
We appreciate all the feedback that we've had. If you like this, leave a like, subscribe to Fox 61 on YouTube if that's where you're watching us. If you're watching us on Fox 61 Plus or one of the other Techno stations, you can give us feedback. My email is dstewart, Stewart, at fox61.com. And that's all I got.
Great.
Thank you, Glenn.
If you don't like it, just stay away from the internet.
Wise words. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Take
All right,
care.
Glenn. Night.
Bye.